So today is the 3rd of March, almost into spring, and our weather continues to be mild. So what am I doing here at night? It's about 6 o'clock at night and my staff have gone home and I'm just about to start doing some work. This happens to be a piece of tufa rock, and the composition here is a hinoki cypress which has been grown on this piece of rock, and of course it's not doing very well. In fact, it is dying. So there's no point keeping this dead tree on it. I could utilize this piece of rock and make something nice out of it. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of this almost 90% dead tree. It's always a shame when trees don't make it, but there are a couple of reasons why this tree is behaving in the way it does. First of all, hinoki cypress as bonsai is quite difficult to keep alive. It is a very tricky subject. When you grow bonsai, you will get to know which are the trees which are easy to grow and which are more challenging. I wouldn't say difficult, I call it challenging. So I know that hinoki is a difficult tree. It's obviously a very old tree because it has almost grown itself completely into the rock. So I would say it would have been planted in this piece of tufa, must be at least 15 or 20 years ago. Look at it. It's completely embedded in here. So just trying to get the dead tree out is going to be quite a job, quite a task. So, as you can see, I'm self-videoing. I don't have the benefit of a cameraman standing over me and taking all the detail, but I hope it gives you some taste of what I'm trying to do. As always, I hate to do a job and realize that, I could have filmed it for the benefit of my viewers. So this tree, the trunk I would say is about 2 inches in diameter here, and it is embedded deep into this piece of rock. I'm on my own, so I can't lift this easy. Oh, I think I can. Okay, you see that there isn't a lot of root going into the soil, so that could be another reason why this tree is not doing so well. Probably not getting enough nutrient. I don't want to use too much force, because if I use too much force, I might damage this rock. Tufa rock is a limestone which is found in limestone caves, and in the UK certainly, tufa is very popular for growing plants and bonsai in it. I once did, I think it's a 7 or 9 tree large forest on a piece of tufa, and in about 10 or 15 years the trees matured, and it's a beautiful, beautiful tree. Sadly, like all these very nice things, I seldom keep it very long because customers will see it and they will want to buy it. I'm quite amused when people say to me on YouTube or whatever medium, social media, oh, you'll never sell it, your pots are too dear or your trees are too dear. But don't you ever get that impression? There are people who find our pots and our trees very desirable. So many of these things seldom stay very long. There's always someone wanting to buy them. I think I'm lucky in that respect. I can see that this tree did try and survive because the roots have gone deep into this tufa. So the first few years it would have grown quite well. Certain conifers do like acid soil. Many people think that maples, which are not conifers, need an acid soil. I find that with maples, they are not fussy about soil, but certain conifers certainly do like more acid type soil, and this could be one of them. But I don't think this species of tree was suited to this tufa planting. Besides, the tree is not particularly nice, so you can look at it. It doesn't look really like a bonsai to me. So I don't want to criticize whoever made it. I'm sure someone who made it could well stumble across this video and say, oh, that's the tree I made. Well, at least you can see what the end result was. There you are. I don't think this tufa rock will survive. The roots are too deeply embedded, it may well break. It is completely congested in here. This piece of tufa might break up. I always like to think that digging into bits of rock and trying to get a plant out is almost like doing a bit of archaeology. You know, what treasures lie inside this. Extracting this tree is almost like extracting someone's tooth, isn't it? I think in this situation, discretion may be the better part of valor. So I might well leave that dead stump, make it a feature. This is where creating things like this, you can't really plan or foresee the final outcome, because it always turns out to be different from what you had planned or envisaged. So I can see I'm going to extemporize and create something which just lends itself or dictates itself to me. I will make this a bit of driftwood, like a dead tree, and make this a feature rather than try and yank it out. Okay, so that should be quite interesting. So have a look at it. I'm just going to bring the camera closer for you to get a closer view of what is involved. I'll just switch it off. So here's this tree. I'm behind the camera now, and that's a close-up of the tufa. It's got a lot of liverwort growing on the tufa, so I'm going to clean this. I'll make this all driftwood and then plant some other trees near it. So watch this space, as they say. Right, let's have a look at what I'm doing. I'm now cleaning the tufa up. This bit of tufa rock has got a lot of this liverwort, and I started trying to do a bit of driftwood on this wood. So I'm going to have a dead tree, and I will plant a live tree next to it just to provide contrast. So this is going to be an extempo piece of art. So I've decided to do this because I know that if I try to yank this dead tree out, it will just break the rock, and I don't want to do that. So the best thing to do is to leave the tree and make a feature of it. Again, it is so much like situations you find in life. If there is a situation which seems hopeless and there's no solution, the best thing to do is to make a virtue out of the difficulty. What they say, necessity is the mother of invention. I may even have to use a pressure washer to get some of this tufa off. I can see that this tufa is extremely weak. It's already starting to break. But as I did say, tufa is not a very hard rock, unlike granite or the Japanese volcanic rock. It is very soft, and if it isn't broken by frost, it could just break just by a little tap or a mild impact. So I know that tufa is used, but it's not the best material for growing things like root over rock or plants growing in rock. Anyway, let's see what we can make out of this. With all rocks, if you leave too much algae or plant growth on it, you don't see the rock. So from time to time you have to clean all that off so that you see the rock again. I can see what the person who made this piece had in mind originally. There are little pockets of rock. If I can just switch the camera and give you another view, you can see that there's a hollow here. There's a hollow here. So these must have been little holes for planting small plants and trees in it. So there are lots of little hollows. So the original composition could have been for small little conifers to be planted here. I don't think the plan was to put one single large tree in it. But let's see what happens. I will now stop the camera and keep cleaning the rock. So let me explain to you where I've got to. I found that this tree is embedded so badly, and the tufa rock was so brittle and weak that it's just falling apart. It's no good trying to rescue it. And whatever you do, I think the scale of putting a dead tree with a live tree just won't work. So we will probably just abandon this plant, and I don't want to do any more damage than is necessary. I might just cut it off and try something else. So, as with most of these projects, it's no point trying to butt your head against a brick wall when the brick wall won't give way. So, as I say, we will abandon this and do something else. So, what will we do? This dead wood is much too large. And if I try to yank it out, the whole tufa rock would shatter. I will try and get the whole tree out by cutting it away. Maybe reduce it to a smaller height. I might well do that. So many options. The thing is to explore all the different options before giving up. So I'm still exploring the possibilities of dead wood effects, gin effects. And it continues to be exciting. Bit of interesting dead wood, and I won't try and put that broken piece of tufa on it. I think you're hiding for nothing, as they say. Let's try a different tack. If I use this as the front, and I've got these beautiful little junipers, you can see I'm going to refine them even more, and I will see what will happen if I put them there and see what happens. That might work. So I'll have to refine those trees a lot. These are little shohin trees that are from Japan. So we will reduce the scale of the planting by having small trees rather than large trees. Maybe have 3 trees on a rock and abandon the idea of the driftwood. I don't think it will work with the driftwood somehow. I don't think so. However much I try to incorporate the driftwood, I don't think it would work. We have different options. So if it works, I will then refine these trees and put the 3 on here. Let's see if it would work better like that. See, 3 trees on a hill. How about that? That might work. That might work. And I could still keep that dead tree in the background. Okay, so if that works, I will just enlarge these holes a little more. I will have to pin some anchor points so that I tie the tree onto the tufa so that it doesn't come out. And we will refine the trees a little more. Okay, so that is the plan. So I'm going to now wire these trees up to make them with more definition, and then we will create the composition like so. I think that would work. How about that? Continuing with this project, if you remember, we started off with this 90% dead hinoki cypress, which has been grown in the rock, and it's embedded in the rock for so long that all the roots are entwined, and in fact it has split the rock. Unfortunately, when trees are growing in the rock, it does split it. So with the best will in the world, I couldn't save it. So we'll try and rescue this and make something out of this. So we've still got a good bit of tufa, and what I did decide to do, rather than put one big tree, I would try and make a landscape. So I've got I've got 3 of these imported Kisu Chinese junipers. These are actually from Japan, and I'm going to plant them so that it looks like a little mountain scene with these trees growing on top of a mountain. So I'll try these 3 and see how it looks or how it relates in a landscape like so. I've just pushed it in at random like that and see if it works or not. It may work, it may not work. I think that is nice there. And this, I think it could go somewhere here. We can dress it up, we can refine it a little more. And then we are still left with this dead stump of a tree. I tried to carve it, remove the bark. I can still try and do a little more cleaning up with the Dremel. Right, I was just showing you how the Dremel works. I could spend a whole hour carving and refining this. And the point of trying to do that is to give the semblance of a tree that had died and keep it there. But you've got to ask yourself, does it relate to the composition of this piece I'm trying to create? And frankly, I have to admit that the answer is no. I don't think it relates somehow. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. You know, with the scale of the trees, these little trees, and this great big dead stump there, somehow it doesn't look realistic. So I've got to think long and hard. If I didn't want to use that, I will just cut it off with a saw, because I know that if I try and yank it out of this rock, the rock is going to split even more. Tufa rock is not a hard rock, it's very soft, you know, it's limestone. It's crumbly. I'm surprised that this tufa has lasted that long. So I'll probably just make a nice landscape with this and get rid of this. And getting rid of this, because as I said, I'm not going to pull it out, I'll just cut it with a saw. And then let's see what the landscape looks like. So, assuming that I'm going to make a landscape, actually it doesn't look bad like that. I think if you come around and see, take a view from this side as well. See, it does look like little trees growing on a mountain. So this is the sort of image I'm trying to create. I may even put a few more. Now, how do I tie these in? Tying these trees in is important because if I don't tie it in, they will just get yanked out like that. So I've got to do something to make it more stable. See, that's another place to put a tree. That is possible too. This is possible too, over here. I'm just trying to see how the composition would look. That is also quite nice, like that. Okay, let me try doing that. Okay, so if I'm to put these trees in these little crevices, I have to tie them in. So what am I going to do? I will reveal a little secret to you. Now, if you come close with the camera, you see I've already put a screw in. I've placed a screw. I will probably try using just that one screw, or maybe even put 2 screws. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. It is like putting a dental implant. Those of you who've got an implant, when you've broken a crown or something, you will know what I mean. So if you bring the camera close and see what I'm doing, I'm just going to drill this in, and believe you me, drilling into tufa is very easy because the rock is soft. So I'm going to drill it in there, and I hope the screw should stay. Nope, no, that didn't stay. It's too soft. Let me just try another spot. That looks better. Okay, that seems to hold. Okay, I'm now going to get a piece of wire to tie the trees in. I don't want to use wire that's too thick. When we make bonsai, I always think that there is no such things as do's and don'ts and rules or taboos. Whatever works or whatever achieves the end result is all that matters. It's all that matters. So here I am drilling a wood screw into the tufa so that I can tie a piece of wire. So that piece of wire is tied there. If you were using a volcanic rock like the rocks that they use in Japan, or another rock which is not tufa, what you would do in that case would be to cement the wires with arrodite or some epoxy type resin, and that will hold the wire in place, and you can get a good anchor that way. But because this is tufa, I've decided to drill in and then put the screw. Now that I've put the screw in, I can now use this wire to tie the tree in place. So this is what I've done. You can see I'll take the tree out again. You see how I've tied the wire to the screw head, and these 2 wires will tie the tree in. So I can put a little bit of compost in there, and then put the tree in, and then I will put a little more compost afterwards to give more soil to the tree. Of course, with a composition like that, whoever owns it, they shouldn't really be yanking it out, you know. But why would one do that? But of course you can get these inquisitive birds. In this country you get blackbirds. They try and get the moss out from the bonsai, and they could well even try and peck this tree out just to look for grubs. I think they are not destructive as such, but what the birds do is that they look for grubs, insects and worms, so they know that underneath the tree there could be these grubs and worms, so that's why they peck at it. It's not that they deliberately want to kill or spoil the tree. So there you are. You see, I planted that little tree in that pocket of soil, like so. So I'm going to do the next one. So that is firmly planted in there. Now this one I can put maybe there. I've got to relate to the rock to see if the scenery fits. See, if I put it like that, that may be. That back one is quite nice there. So I'll do the same thing again. 2 screws. Now this time I'm going to do something else, because when I was tying that piece of wire, I discovered that it was quite hard to tie the wire around the screw head once the screw is embedded into the tufa rock. So I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to wrap the wire around the head like this and then put it in. That may save me trying to twist the wire around the screw head once it is put into the rock. So again, I'm trying to improvise and devise all these little tricks as I go along. So that is what I'm doing. And let's try again. So here, if you come close, you will see. I'm just going to drill in here. Well, if I was a dentist, I would be earning more money than a humble gardener, you know, trying to screw these screws into a piece of tufa. I guarantee you that this is exactly what dentists do when they do implants. I have a very good friend, I don't know whether he's watching this video or not. He's a top implant surgeon. In fact, I have 2. One came on a workshop with me, and the other one I've known for years and years, a very famous dental implant surgeon. So he'll be laughing his head off at what I'm doing. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's held nicely. So you can see these wire ends like that. So that will give me the anchor for this tree. So again, I will take some compost from here and then put it around the tree. In fact, I may do another trick. I may put another screw there just to make sure it is very firm. No, I think that's okay. I was just worried that it's a bit loose there. No, I think I can do that with a bit of clay even. Okay, I've got 2 trees in. If you bear with me. What I have here is clay that we've just dug up from the ground. Our nursery is built on clay. If you dig a meter, that means 3 or 4 feet below the surface of the soil, for the top 2 feet or 60 centimeters, you get lovely rich soil. But below that, I have this clay. In fact, it is almost like pottery clay, because I've been a potter myself. I do know that pottery clay is like this. Look at it. It is almost like plasticine. And I don't throw this clay away. When I dig holes, I always try and keep some of this clay because it's a very useful thing to have on the nursery. And I use this to smear around the edges like a cement. You see how nicely it smears around here? So I'm more or less making a little trough with the clay. I think in Japan they use a type of clay that comes from the paddy fields. When the rice has been harvested, at the bottom of the field you get this very sticky soil. I think it's called keto or something, K-E-T-O. I don't know if that is how you pronounce it, and it's used for that purpose. So this is like a little bund or a barrier that can keep the soil in place. I must leave some soil exposed so that you can water it or the water can get in, because if I put too much clay, it may prevent the water from getting in. I think that is enough to hold it. So the same with this one. So this is what I'm going to do. Those of you who live in London, when you see people digging the trenches for laying the cables and sewer pipes, you will find that this is the clay you get. It's called London clay, because London is really built on the River Thames. So a lot of it is the old riverbed. So you get this London clay. Can you see I've done like a bund or a pocket to hold it? And it so happens that we had a bonsai class yesterday and we were using some moss, so you can stick moss on this. And the moss will eventually grow, so you can camouflage this. So this is what I'm going to do. This is only like 10 or 20 seconds of work, but when I finish it, I will show you the entire composition. So you wouldn't know that this has been tied mechanically with screws and wires. It's all about cheating and, you know, like tanuki. All these little tricks. There's no right or wrong, no, you know, good or bad, as long as the end result looks good. Now look at that. With the moss there, you wouldn't think that these trees are just been put there 10 minutes ago, and it looks as if it's been growing there forever. Now looking at that driftwood there, I might still keep it. It seems probably relevant to the composition. So I will try carving it. So it looks as if these young trees are growing on a cliff where the mother tree had died. So let's see what happens. And then when this is finished, I will show you what the composition looks like. So this is almost, I would say, like 80% finished. When I complete the composition, I will film it again. So let me show you what I've achieved so far. So we've anchored the 3 junipers into this tufa rock. This is one of them. That's the second tree. And the third tree is at the back. These are all trained in the informal upright style. And I've also left that bit of driftwood, which I've got to refine a little more. And I've put a few bits of fern to plant it up. There's a very miniature rhododendron or miniature Satsuki azalea there. And there's a bit of the variegated thyme. So this is like a mountain landscape. This is how you would find trees growing on the mountainside. And this in miniature is what I've tried to recreate. The Chinese would call it penjing or potted scenery. The Japanese would call it saike. You call it what you will. But as long as it's in miniature and the representation is authentic, that's all there is to it. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing me do just something different. And as the moss grows on the rocks and the trees, you won't be able to see where the tree is embedded in the rock. Everything will be absolutely natural. So there you go. And I hope you've enjoyed this little visit.